Hi, everyone. Thank you very, very much for being here. I know we have a ton of different panels going on at the same time. So if you're here, it's probably because you want to learn about something that you've probably never heard about, which is AI. I'm sure nobody in this room has ever listened about or known about AI. No, so we want to talk today specifically about a subset of AI, which is machine learning and deep learning. So first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Miguel Lancha. I am Healthcare Innovation Director at AstraZeneca Spain, and I lead the Spanish Healthcare Innovation Hub. And what we do at the hub is that we find or we look for startups that have developed solutions that are able to mitigate some of the biggest challenges and pain points of the healthcare system. Patients, we know that the healthcare system is facing many challenges, and patients with chronic diseases, oncological patients, we know that technology can have a huge impact on the system and on these patients. So many of the solutions that we look at the hub or that we seek at the hub have leveraged machine learning and deep learning. Today with me, I want to introduce Sarah and Taik. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and please, can you just jump ahead and tell us how you guys have incorporated machine learning and deep learning into the development of your solutions?
The first step. The floor is mine. Now, thank you for having me here. My company is Ventonico that use a hyper-realistic avatar connected to artificial intelligence. I'm a surgeon. I work in Spain and in Shanghai, managing clinical spaces. And we use artificial intelligence in order to manage hospitals, to manage this kind of industry, and of course manage the relationship with the patients. Mm-hmm. We saw that the patient needs to be connected with, not just with a bot, mm-hmm. need to be connected with someone that he needs to trust in someone, and obviously the patient trusts in the team, in her patient journey. Mm-hmm. So we saw that we have an opportunity to clone ourselves, to clone our voice, to clone our images, and use it connected with ChatGPT. I have my clone connected with ChatGPT, so I am clever and smart.
So wait a second, you have a clone?
Yeah, I have a clone and work for me 24/7. And of course, not all the answers are correct, right? But we are improving the model. And now we have the possibility to have an avatar that can have a video call in real time. We move the lips and synchronize the information, so it's very realistic for the patient. And this is a very game changer here. So this is what Ventonico does.
This is, wow, super disruptive. I mean, talking about cloning and using AI, that's incredible. Taik, can you walk us through a little bit on your solution on Legit and how you've incorporated deep learning into the development of your solution?
Sure, indeed. So we work in an even more specialized subset of AI, which is computer vision. Okay. And that is the AI that learns using machine learning, but especially in images. So this is an AI that looks at images, looks at the world, and then is able to extract conclusions based on patterns, mm-hmm. and perform tasks of classification, segmentation, semantic segmentation. So what does it really do, right? So we apply it to medicine, especially to the indications or the environments in which both diagnosis and measurement of the severity, it's done visually. So there's many conditions where to be diagnosed, you need to go under a machine, and there's some complex method of analysis, like a scanner. But there's other indications, and this is commonly the case in dermatology, where the doctor would look at you and kind of guess based on their knowledge. So that's where we work in, and also because we wanted to develop something that was as democratized as possible. So we specialized in clinical images, which is images taken with any smartphone out there. So we put that in the hands of healthcare practitioners especially those who don't have the highest degree of expertise, so they can help patients with a performance equiparable to those who are actual experts.
That is super interesting. There's something I want to ask both of you about, because at least at AstraZeneca, we don't like to technology for the sake of technology. I think that technology needs to be here to solve a problem, and especially when we're talking about health. So, and I'm sure many of you have probably heard about the concept of value-based healthcare, and that healthcare and solutions that we implement really need to add value. I want to ask you, how do you see your solutions into the patient flow, into the patient pathway? What's going to be the value added to the system and patients?
Mm-hmm.
So,
good question. For example, my mother is blind. She knows ChatGPT, and she loves ChatGPT, right? Because he can do pictures, and ChatGPT describes the details that I didn't prepare enough. Because of her illness, she started to ask ChatGPT for a solution. And of course, there are a lot of doctors from all over the world that you will never meet them in case someone told that they are sick. Mm-hmm. And ChatGPT gives the patient the power to have all the information. Are doctors prepared to see that the patient can have all this information? I don't think so. So our solution, because our solution is integrated in how to manage the patient, we are going to need to see how manage the patient with this kind of information, because we are starting now, we are in the year zero from this, mm-hmm. but it's going to be improved, and we need to manage in the hospital how the doctor are learning and how the patient are empowered with all the information.
And before jumping, I wanted to ask you, do you see many challenges there? Because we know that adoption of technology, I know there are many people, many doctors, very savvy on wanting to incorporate AI. Do you foresee any issues there or any problems in your roadmap, or how are you going to tackle that maybe adverse type of profiles?
Yeah, we are seeing how the environment is moving. Of course, we are hyper-realistic avatar, so we are the human part of this relationship. Mm-hmm. So we are adapting to manage this situation. But of course, for example, in my experience in Spain, my experience in Shanghai, I was working with doctors that earn money without patient. If they haven't got patient, is the way that they earn money, which is completely different in here. So we manage that kind of system, and we manage this kind of system. Now we need to manage the system where the patient is empowered with all the information. And it's going to be for legal procedure, because if the doctor don't use the artificial intelligence, the patient is going to know more than the doctor. So we need to be prepared for that.
That is crucial. So going back to you and thinking on that patient pathway with skin conditions, can you give us some concrete examples of how your solution works, how the algorithm was trained?
Sure. I also want to mention something about the previous question, because this was very interesting. But I will answer your question first. So it was trained with images, as is no surprise. But the tricky part is that the key element, the key ingredient, are not the images, but the labels. Mm-hmm. So the knowledge that goes along the labels, so you can train the AI. And depending on the quality of this knowledge, that's going to reflect in the quality of the algorithm. Mm-hmm. So in our case, for instance, so we use images, but each image needs to be assessed by at least 5 clinicians, and we train then with the consensus. So it's a really slow and lengthy process. Mm-hmm. It also explains the huge difference between 2 AIs that may be trained on the same data set. Okay. Right? Like we use ChatGPT and then Gemini, and then the other one is like, they're different. It's like, why are they different? Because huge companies doing things. Because the same way you and I are different. Yeah. It's just tiny decisions in the data set and the knowledge that you feed into it.
And really quick on that, what you mentioned, because I know that in other solutions it is crucial that you train with data sets that are very representative, and you can incur into a bias of training an algorithm with, for example, images of the skin of people maybe in Spain, which might not be representative. Of course it isn't representative of the different skin tones, of how a particular condition can affect. I'm not a doctor, but I'm assuming that since it also happens in a number of different pathologies, this is also crucial when feeding into the deep learning algorithm, correct?
Yeah. Good point. And regarding this, the thing I was going to mention actually is that in healthcare, there are no startups. Like healthcare is completely different to any other environment because there's an issue of patient safety, and that's paramount. So it's actually better to do nothing. Let's not do anything. That's something that may arise in some harm to the patient.
Of course.
So in healthcare, you don't have startups. You have medical device manufacturers, which is what we are. So that you need to take into account when training the data set, possible biases. Mm-hmm. And actually on the development process, we account for this, and the notified bodies and organizations that look into the compliance of our training methods with different standards also look for these kind of things. Although it's a trickier subject that you might think, because it's not possible to have every demographic or population represented equally in the data set. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to find images for pediatric diseases in elderly population, right? Likewise, there's some conditions like pigmentations, for example, like darker skins are darker because they have a pigment which make them less vulnerable to the radiation from the sun, therefore less likely to develop skin cancer. So it's not even as simple as you need to really understand the issue. Yeah.
Regarding this, for example, in my company, that we clone people. This is why we clone the nurse, the doctor, and the team, because it's crucial to train this LLM, ChatGPT or whatever, or Copilot. It's crucial to learn this artificial intelligence with the key of this kind of person, with the decision, the experience, how to treat the patient, etc.
Yeah, that is crucial, because when you factor that in, when you get that knowledge and that expertise in your cloning process, mm-hmm. then the output is going to be equally, or well, not equally, because we know that AI is not going to replace yet practitioners and ACPs, but the better the language and the model that you feed in, that's crucial for the output. I wanted to ask you guys a question, because you are healthcare entrepreneurs. This is South Summit, an event that is more and more gaining more focus on healthcare, which is absolutely great, but it is hard to innovate and to be an entrepreneur in the healthcare sector for many reasons. Can you provide a little bit of your view on how this has been, and what have been the main challenges you have faced? In your case, for example?
For example, in my case, I cried a lot.
You cried a lot?
Yeah, of course, my 80% of the business is out of the healthcare industry. Yeah. Because healthcare industry need permission. It's a very close environment. But it's you feel that you need to do it. So it is hard, but it is the way that I can feel successful, the healthcare system, because it's the place, because our avatars can be used in marketing. Mm-hmm. Because, for example, we have an avatar that we train it in order to be a streamer, can do a live stream in TikTok, and mm-hmm. can answer and read and answer the questions, which is very, very useful for example, in learning. But in healthcare industry, I put all my effort because all the compliance. Now with Microsoft and Copilot, Azure, they have an environment that hospitals are moving in that way, mm-hmm. more than ChatGPT or Gemini or other companies. Yeah, we are doing exercise in order how to manage this, but it's not easy.
It hasn't been easy. And in your case, what have been the biggest challenges you've had to face during this journey?
Sure. Disclaimer, I'm a weird person, but if I had cried during the process, it would have been tears of joy. Because what I discovered is a framework, a regulatory framework that is so well thought, there is no loose end, everything's thought of, everything's measured, and I actually love that. So yes, it is true that something that would have taken possibly 1 year in another industry took 4 years here. It's just the end result is just so much better. And the process of doing it is so enlightening. So every decision is documented, every decision is audited, there's an approval process for everything. I know people hate that, but that's actually the reason why we can go to a pharmacy and we don't have to distrust what we buy. Mm-hmm. We know that the person in front of us is trustworthy. We know that the things inside the packages are trustworthy, and this makes everything work as a society. Mm-hmm. So it's been actually beautiful to me to participate in this rigorous process of doing something that is reliable.
It is absolutely crucial. We're talking about health of people. You need that clinical validation that what you have developed works. It's paramount. I wanted to ask you about something that I was talking the other day at a different forum that had to do, I made an analogy with the Fermi paradox. Fermi paradox is, if we have so many stars and we have so many planets, where are the other people or intelligent life out there? And the analogy is, we see constantly huge advances in technology, like the ones you guys have developed, but for some reason, it feels as if to the end user, the HCP, the patient ourselves, you don't tend to see it. And I think that might have to do, to some level, with how healthcare systems have been built and the legacy, the IT legacy. Do you think in your case that could be a challenge to implement or incorporate your solutions into healthcare systems? Do you think that might be a challenge, or is that something we have overcome?
Absolutely, because, for example, in some opinions, once my solution need to be managed by the IT team, right? But I would like to manage to have the contact with the doctors and the nurse, because they are necessary. We need to change the doctor mindset and the team mindset in order not to know how to work with the patient, how to work with the patient, but with technology.
With technology.
I think this is the best the challenge for me in my case.
Yeah. And in your case, in terms of integration, you think it's all?
Yeah. So it is difficult. It should be difficult. Like it should be difficult. It shouldn't be accessible to anyone to just be in front of patients. I'm trying to think if it's more difficult than it needs to be. Okay. And I think it is. Mm-hmm. Sadly, it is. Not in every organization. Mm-hmm. For example, we have worked with many companies. We've worked with Sanitas, for example, and they're quite hands-on. They like to understand the thing, but they make it difficult. But I think as difficult as necessary. But then, for example, we spoke with both SERMAS, Servicio Madrileño, yes, and CatSalud. Mm-hmm. And the difference was just, with SERMAS it was possible to do, very difficult, but possible in the end. With CatSalud,
it's different.
It's different. So I think that yes, there is space for improvement in that.
Okay. So deep learning is of course here. We use it. Startup use it. Now we're talking a lot about multimodal AI and the impact that multimodal AI is having, actually. We've all seen videos of how they use images and writing and several different, and then there's an output there. I want to pick your brains around, as visionaries, what you think is going to happen in the next 10 years? What's going to be the big thing? Are we going to stick with AI? Is there anything around maybe prediction? What can you tell us about what you think the future looks like?
I think, my dream is to build a hospital all managed by artificial intelligence, which means that all the knowledge that trained this kind of artificial intelligence can be in the Caribbean drinking a mojito, maybe. Because, for example, now I have, it's not connected with technology, but it's an example. I clone myself in my WhatsApp, so you can talk to me with my artificial intelligence in WhatsApp. You can talk to me in English even. So I have superpowers there, not here, right? So my husband talked with the artificial intelligence. So what happened? What happened is that my husband wants to have an artificial intelligence in his WhatsApp in order to connect.
And they might fight between them, and you're not even involved.
Yes, and we train the artificial intelligence with our house investment or organization, or how to manage our home. If we can manage our home with artificial intelligence and train it with the knowledge of each other, right? We can do it the same in all the industry and even in a hospital. This is my vision. We need to clone, and the ones that clones before than others is going to take the advantage here.
Well, that's pretty disruptive, I think, very mind-blowing. What's your vision?
I would have to say, pasapalabra. I have zero confidence in my ability to predict 10 years' time. It's just, I'm afraid of giving an answer. It's just impossible.
Well, in that case, what I want to do, and the organization has allowed me to use the last 5 minutes that we have to get the opinion of the audience, to any questions you guys might have. We know there are startups that are leveraging technology that might want to ask some questions to them. Early stage entrepreneurs. Maybe there's no questions, and that's totally fine. But we have a question here.
Hi, my name is Pino Betancourt. I'm starting a startup, but my question is as a patient. Because for the last few years, every time I go see a doctor, the doctor looks at the screen more than he looks at me. So how is this stuff that you're doing going to make the doctor... Oh, sorry. I didn't know there was a mic. So for the past few years, every time I go visit a doctor, the doctor spends more time looking at the screen than looking at me. He only looks at the specific area we're talking about. He has no idea of the rest of my history, so he can't put pieces together. And so how is your work going to make that more interesting? Because I don't go to the doctor because of that.
Right.
Can I answer very briefly with something very interesting? That do you know that in many cases this is due to technology? The technology is the culprit, and it wanted to solve a problem. Now everything is digitalized, and you have electronic medical records. And it has been proven through studies that that technology has actually increased the workload and decreased the time that a doctor spends looking and diagnosing and interacting with the patient. And I will leave them to give them their opinion, but I'm circling back to the importance that technology needs to solve or add value to the patient and to the healthcare system. So it's extremely important to work around the problem and fall in love with the problem, not so much with the technology. But that's my very humble opinion.
I'll just add one more comment. We had a panel just now with the CIO of Sanitas, who has great projects, but I'm a client of Sanitas, and all of the digitalization is for them, not for me. I get a million reminders to go to see the doctor. But I can't get my stuff online. I can't look for anything online. I book an appointment, and the hospital, the appointment is, if their system doesn't talk to the Sanitas system, it really makes you wonder if there's a hidden camera.
I want to say two things. The first one, in regards to your second comment, from what I know about Sanitas firsthand, I would advise you to stick to Sanitas, because some good things are happening in the near future. Obviously, I cannot say much more, but they're leading, I would say, processes in that regard. And the second thing, it's not going to be so popular, and I don't think you're going to like it that much. So I have to say that I agree fully that when you go to the doctor, is to be treated as a person, to be looked at. But the main parameter you should measure is health outcomes. So we shouldn't. The only thing we value shouldn't be how many minutes the doctor is looking at my eyes, but rather how effective they are in prescribing me the treatment I need and in improving my health. So I also think that it's quite difficult what we ask of doctors. So they need to be people, but they need to make, in a really short span of time, great decisions of great consequences. And above all, I can say that health outcomes have been steadily improving. So far, things could be going even better, but they're not declining. So we should definitely work and improve it, but we should also be grateful of the state in we're at now, and especially in countries like in Spain, where Sanidad Pública, it's difficult to manage, it's going possibly not so well, so we should also be mindful of the other part.
Here my answer is that I have, as a manager in a hospital environment, I have 2 steps here in order to work in that. The first step is that I have my clone that works. I'm a surgeon, so I'm a doctor. So my patient talks to ChatGPT. We are in a pilot process, and they feel, because it's my voice and my images sometimes, they feel comfortable, they feel safe that I am behind the app, right? Which is no real. Well, I am, because I train with my training, my specialist and my expertise. The second step is when the patient still wants to come to the office, it's because need to be safe, need to be time spending with the doctor, because they have all the information, they have the opportunity to talk with the bot. But they still need to have the appointment, is because they need a human contact. So this need to be managed with the managers of the hospital. When the patient comes to the office, need to be listened. So I am not going to do my doctor just 2 minutes for all your patients. No. We have tools in order to solve the 80% of the appointments. But when the patient comes to the office, need to be treated like a human, because he wants to be a human contact.
Okay, guys, so we are running out of time. I want to thank the panelists. It has been great. It is so great to see that South Summit at entrepreneur events such as this one are focusing more and more on health. I think first there's health, and then everything goes behind. So thank you very much, all of you, for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.